don't care much for money. I think money is overblown. It doesn't have that much meaning to me. Even though a house goes up, you got to pay taxes on it. There are costs associated with it. And these are costly things. Money's actually costly. When you put money in the bank, you don't realize it's not your money. It becomes the bank's money instantly.
He was once the Wall Street maverick, the man who lived fast, played hard, and made millions. Ross Mandell built a reputation as the bad boy of Wall Street, fearless, bold, and larger than life.
I turned $1,500 into $30 million. And I spent $5 or $10 million along the way. I was nuts, but I was in my 20s. I was young. I just thought, this is great. Mentorship for me was huge throughout my time on Wall Street and makes all the difference in the world.
But behind the headlines of excess and controversy was a story of ambition, downfall, and redemption. He tasted both the heights of success and the depths of consequence. And now he's here to tell the truth, unfiltered, raw, and unlike anything you've heard before.
The way I was able to climb the ladder, so to speak, of success, my rap was, listen, can I just come in? I won't say a word. I just want to listen to you. In order to get next to somebody that's meaningful or substantial, he knows what he can do for you. The question is, what can you do for me? Invest in yourself. Believe in yourself. Don't buy what everybody's selling. Don't buy the illusion.
Most people are afraid of money. The people that have it because they're not afraid of it. Why are most people afraid of money?
The reason they're afraid of it is because they need to make an excuse why they don't have it or they don't chase it aggressively. So, it's become something that's relatively unattainable, and we create fear over those kind of things.
Yeah. Were you ever afraid of money?
Never. I never afraid of money, but here's the funny thing about me. I don't care much for money. I think money is overblown. It doesn't have that much meaning to me. The only person I ever heard speak about this openly is Robert Kiyosaki, who I think is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think he's one of the smartest guys in the world. And we have a lot of very similar philosophies. Interesting enough, our stores on Lightspeed's platform happen to be right next to each other.
Actually.
For real. And Grant Cardone's on the other side. But this Robert Kiyosaki, I think, has fundamentally, he's managed to put in words what I seem to know. So, like most of us will say, I own my house, right? That's an asset. And I own my car. I don't lease it. That's an asset. And, nothing can be further from the truth. These are not assets. And if they are assets, they're characterized as depreciating assets. And even though a house goes up, you got to pay taxes on it. There are costs associated with it. It actually costs you money. And unless you're getting interest because a financial interest, meaning you rent it out. Let's say it's a property that you rent out. Now that's interesting. He focuses on the income statement of a balance sheet because he feels that certain things that he categorizes as assets really aren't. And I actually get that. So to me, money has always been just a tool to acquire things that I find necessary. Comfort, things of that nature, security. These are things that I use money to acquire, and these are costly things. Money's actually costly.
What do you mean by that?
Let's just say you're in the podcast business. Yeah. Okay, so you had...
Which I am. I happen to be.
Just what coincidence. And we were talking about putting together a studio. Yeah. Right? You might have spent $50,000. So you're actually, it's your business, and you spent, let's say, 50, 100, 25,000, whatever the numbers are for the mixer and the camera and the roadcaster and all the microphones, etc. The business itself, until it generates income, it's a bunch of expenses, right? Of course, yeah. And we're willing to invest in a business because, in theory, the business, by definition, is an entity that is formed to create a profit. And so when you look at things like, to have money, people think the idea is to have money and to put it in the bank and save it. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He's got a few $100,000 saved. And I said, what do you do with the money? He says, I keep it in the bank. I said, really? It's in the bank. I said, okay. I said, what do you think? Why in the bank? Because, it's safety and I get interest. I said, what kind of interest are you getting? And he goes, I think I'm getting like 3.8% or something like that. I said, a week? A month? No, a year. Okay. And who pays you that interest? Well, the bank pays me that interest. Well, do you think the bank is losing money by paying you? So do you know anything about banking? So when your real bank, goes to the window and gets 33 times whatever the money is. And by the way, when you put money in the bank, you don't realize it's not your money. It becomes the bank's money instantly.
You're making money off of it too.
And you get a chit, you get a receipt like a coat check. And yes, if you come back, they can honor it up until $250,000 because that's what the FDIC says. They immediately take your money, leverage it up, they borrow against your money, and get 33 times that money. So if it's $10,000 now, that's turned into $330,000, and they invest that money. And I promise you, banks make more than 3.5% a year on your money. I said, have you considered looking at a very conservative blue chip dividend paying stock? He says, what do you mean? I said, well, I put money sometimes in the market. That shouldn't be a surprise. Okay. I said, safe money. I said, do you ever buy Walmart? You heard of Walmart? Biggest retailer in the world.
Once or twice.
Okay. You think there's any chance they're going to have any problems paying you out? Because every 90 days that you hold their stock, they're paying you a dividend. Do you know that Walmart's dividend is equivalent to 5% a year? Plus the stock continuously.
So you get the upside on the appreciation plus the dividend payout. Right.
So like owning a stock and sitting with it that doesn't pay you a dividend is like owning a piece of real estate. You have no tenants in it. It's unoccupied. Now, is that the way you?
No, but it's funny because you're saying, owning a stock doesn't pay you dividends is a dumb idea, which I agree. But at the same time, the majority of people have such insignificant understanding of money and finance that they're going to leave money in the bank.
They know what we teach you, what we sell you. Yeah. Buy and hold. Yeah. Buy a stock and hold it for 30 or 40 years. So when you buy, people don't even understand this. Every bank, stockbroker, and professional trades from the short side. What does that mean? You're going to call up your broker later, Scott, and you say, I want to buy 1,000 shares of NVIDIA. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it's 100. It's really about 113. It's $100,000, right? And you say, okay. And you call up your broker. When I want to buy 1,000 shares, he calls you back a minute later and says you bought 1,000 shares at 100. That's 100,000, right? And you feel good. You feel like the brokerage firm just went out and bought you that stock. But they did not buy you that stock. That's what we want you to think. They looked at the market and they shorted it to you. They borrowed it from stock loan department somewhere and they sold it to you. Why? Because they can always buy it back cheaper. So I'm gonna sell it to you for 100 only because I know that I could probably buy it back at 99, 98, 97, 97, whatever the numbers are. But cheaper because they're closer to the market than you. So things are illusory. You think you see something. And
nobody knows what they're doing.
And it's not, we're sitting on a chair that I would swear I'm sitting on a solid item. But if we look under an electron microscope, it's billions of subatomic particles moving at, 186,000 miles a second in speed. It's moving. It's active. So, your understanding of the world isn't always as factual as you might believe. So with money especially, and things like investing, you've been programmed to believe what we've been telling you to believe. I'm part of that machine that went ahead and pitched and sold a story, just like, hundreds of thousands of other people and hundreds of thousands of books, etc.
We're talking about, we just briefly touched on investing in stocks and dividends. People's financial education is so far from yours. It's unbelievable. It's almost funny if it wasn't sad how far people's financial education is, because there's a lot of different reasons. It could be our school system doesn't teach us shit. It could be that our parents never taught us anything. They didn't know any better. They didn't know themselves. How many people retire and they go trust an investment advisor from a bank, and that's their one retirement strategy, right? In the U.S., you got your 401ks. In Canada, you got RRSPs, or you got a whole bunch of different things, right?
Correct.
But you've been in this game for a long time. Not everybody has been in this game since the early 80s.
1983.
You were making money. You were making good money. So I have here you're making $200,000 a month as a stockbroker in your 20s. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
No, it was very good actually, and it was. I felt invincible. I felt, Thomas Wolfe wrote a book, called Bonfire of the Vanities. Number one bestseller. They made movies out of it. One movie, a series of shows, the whole thing. And they talk about guys that were Wall Streeters at that time in the 80s. And they called them masters of the universe. And I was one of those guys. And in the 90s, they talked about the bad boys of Wall Street in the 80s, prior to the 87 crash. Yeah. Because starting in 1982, the market went straight up. Imagine a chart. Yeah. So you get in here by my elbow, and it went just like straight up for 5 years. I turned $1,500 into $30 million. And I spent $5 or $10 million along the way. I was nuts. But I was in my 20s. I was young. And I just thought, this is great. Like, I didn't even understand it could ever end or even change. Because I was hooked in with some of the most famous guys in the history of Wall Street that today are on the Forbes billionaire list, et cetera. Guys that created NASDAQ. They created electronic trading. They created the ideas of the fundamental way markets are made today, the way you understand venture capital, private equity, all these different things. So again, mentorship for me was huge throughout my time on Wall Street, and makes all the difference in the world. I had guys that taught me, that showed me, that allowed me to listen in, took the time out to structure deals, invited me in deals once they saw I had value and I was talented, I could add value. People, I'm going to give, this is a little tidbit for your listeners, because I know you have a substantial audience. I'm getting a lot of people right now, because I'm on the come up in the sort of influencer podcasting space, right? I sell online education, the Wealth Formula podcast. I'm mentoring a lot of people. And people are coming to me out of the woodwork right now. And everybody's like, they see now that I'm out of prison, short period of time, and I'm on the come up. My chart's going like this now. And people are saying, I know you've signed to produce a movie. My brother wrote a script, a screenplay, a book. Can I please send it to you? Another guy wrote a book, and he sees that I'm about to get a big publishing deal, and he wants to send me the book so I could maybe get him a publishing deal. I have literally 2-3 dozen people, and I'm sure you do too, reaching out, telling me what I could do for them.
Yeah.
And the way I was able to climb the ladder, so to speak, of success, my rap was, listen, can I just come in? I won't say a word. I just want to listen to you. There's nothing I won't do for you. What can I do for you? In order to get next to somebody that's meaningful or substantial, somebody that is on that trajectory, he knows what he can do for you. I know what I can do for you. I know what I can do for him. The question is, what can you do for me? So if you want to get next to a big guy, you want to pick his brain, you want to see how he moves, how he operates, how he handles things, what can you do for the person that says to me, I want to handle all your social media? Nelson, I got this. You don't worry about it. I'll take care of this. Now that's somebody that has value to me. And if I look you up and down and I say you offer value to me, and I think and if I'm willing to accept that value, a real guy, a real dude in life won't even accept value unless he knows he's going to pay it back. He's going to offer it back. I know what I could do for a young man. I already know. I know what I could do for a middle-aged man or guys my age. The question is, why would I? I'm not a charity. I do a lot of charitable work. I'm a philanthropist.
I know what you're saying, though. When you started, you just gave everything that you had to these guys that were the mentors and the people that were, tenured in the game.
How can I serve you?
Yeah.
What can I do for you? When I speak to anybody that has, in my opinion, real value, and I want to get with him in some way, if I want to get him to do something for me, I don't say, can you do something for me? I say, how can I serve you? I want you to know there's a willingness to give. Those are the people that end up getting. People that are willing to serve.
I know a lot of people that have made a lot of money, and I've been a little bit successful, not compared to some people that have had, 9-figure exits and whatnot. But for me, it's like a different kind of success because you have a little bit of fame and you have an audience, so people are interested in you for that reason as well. But whether or not it's money or fame that you bring to the table, obviously very privileged to have that, but it's hard to figure out whose intentions are true when you're trying to figure out who to work with, who to spend time with. It's very difficult.
You are on your way. I mean, a lot of say, oh, a podcaster, another podcaster. It's like such a crowded space. We've analyzed the space. There's maybe 1,000 people doing it, serious people. How many doctors, how many lawyers, how many stockbrokers, how many engineers, how many plumbers, how many electricians? There's nobody podcasting. De minimis, on a pinhead, nothing. Unregulated business. You can have your own network. Virtually no barrier to entry. If you have Wi-Fi and you have a phone with a camera, you can be a podcaster. One of the things that really swayed me, a lot of people were saying you were meant for this kind of thing. You're a podcast, you're a speaker, you can help so many people, etc. And I said, what do I know from this kind of thing? And then my ex-wife sat me down and showed me this woman. She was like a sales clerk, checkout person at Walmart or one of the big box stores. And she has an iPhone, and she sits at a kitchen table, and she started a podcast. And now she's making $70,000 a month. And she didn't even believe that it could work like that. And she stayed as a cashier at one of these big box stores until she's making $50,000 a month on a continuing basis.
She makes her annual salary monthly.
That's what she says. And, she just, at some point, it hit her, why are you killing yourself? Getting up early in the morning, going to work 8-10 hours, and then you have kids and a husband. And then when you squeeze in your podcast, and meanwhile, this is what's paying everybody's bills and all that kind of thing. Because it was almost like she couldn't believe it. And I believe this is where we're at in this particular business. You have a great name. You're smart. You're young. You're good looking. You married well. I mean, you're on solid footing. The world is yours, bro.
You think about opportunity, right? I mean, there was opportunity with leverage and money and finance when you started out. There's still that opportunity too, but now I think that the opportunity is with media and reach, because then you combine these things, right? There's this concept from a guy, Naval Ravikant. He's a modern day philosopher, very successful entrepreneur. He built one of the companies he built was Angel List, which is a big startup company. You can invest through it, but the point is, he speaks about 4 kinds of leverage. There's technology, there's finance, there's people, and then there's media, as the 4 things that if you figure out how to tap into those things, the sky's the limit, right?
Golden.
You're golden. Now, what you know is financial and people. You know how to use those 2 types of leverage and technology to a degree because you've also built a massive audience yourself. But media is something that people are. There's a lot of creators out there, but I don't think people understand how powerful media is. I don't think there's really been a play where somebody has understood the power of media plus public markets. I see a lot of technology plus public markets for sure, right? People taking companies public all the time that are software companies. They IPO, they're unicorns, they're $1 trillion companies now. Forget $1 billion.
3 trillion even.
Yeah. But media, I don't see that people have figured that alignment out yet.
There was a guy named Sumner Redstone who figured that out, and he formed Viacom. And he had A and B shares. And Shari Redstone, his daughter, now runs Viacom B, and they're in the midst of there's a lot of noise going on regarding that company and Paramount, and they're going to spin it off.
So that's incorrect. So there are news media. I think I meant not traditional media. I meant new media.
Well, there has really been no play yet with the new media, and that's why I formed Raw Media, because my plan is to introduce the world of new media to the world of Wall Street and stock market virality. And there are guys like Patrick Bet-David that I think understand it.
Yeah.
And are moving that way. My guess is at some point Valuetainment will go public. That's my guess. I don't know that he would be interested just in selling, but you never know, because he might command a price of $3, $4, $5, $6 billion. You know who understood this and really? There was a guy named Mark Cuban.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The end of in the 90s, he created a broadcast media. It was a company that, at its height, did $25 million in revenues in the media space. He sold that for $5.9 billion. 90% of all his employees became millionaires. But when you are talking about a new, innovative technology, media, which offers its own virality, and the virality of the stock market, as witnessed by anything with .com, was being valued at, $1 billion. What I'm trying to give you is a virality, the virality aspect of money, the stock market. You think if Yahoo would have offered Mark Cuban $1 billion, he wouldn't have taken it? He would have said no. They would have said, "See you later, Mark." An hour later, he would have been like, I was just thinking about this. Can we do $1 billion too? Because I really have my eyes on a basketball team in Dallas, and they want $200 million. Imagine that was $200 million for the Dallas Mavericks, and he sold them at a value of $5 or $6 billion. So he's pretty good at understanding virality and value. So Raw Media, it is our intention as a group to roll up podcasters, people in the space, mentors, etc., things that encompass what I call the social media, the new media, the influencer space. And we're going to bring that to the market. What's that going to be worth? Well, let me ask you a question. If we can control 20 million eyeballs, what's that worth?
A lot.
Well, let me just tell you something. If there's a game or an event that gets 20 million eyeballs on television, let's just say, or a movie, do you understand the value? It's enormous.
It's enormous.
The Super Bowl is the single biggest event in the world, and they get about 100 million eyeballs worldwide.
So what happens? You get 20 million. Yeah.
Think about that.
20 million on command.
And command. That's
yeah.
You listen good. See, you understand. The value, nobody knows what the value really is, because it hasn't been done. After it's been done, tried and tested a few times, then we'll have a better idea. But the idea is to be avant-garde, to introduce the whole thing. Because I got that idea, because guys like Mr. Beast were complaining that he's making money, a lot of money.
He's had offers, though, for over $1 billion.
Correct, now. Yeah. But I'm talking about, believe it or not, only about 10 months ago. That he's just not making that Wall Street money. He's not making that Wall Street money. You got companies that are sorry-ass companies. The average IPO from a big firm is valued at $1 billion.
I don't think people really can comprehend how much money is in Wall Street. I don't think if they've ever lived it, they understand.
$3 trillion a day trades. A day. On Wall Street. I'll never forget I was in prison. And one of the big questions when you first get to prison, guys see you on the yard, they see you walking around the compound. Hey, new guy. Hey, OG. Hey, old man. They used to call me Rock Solid because that was the name of a book I wrote. And I had don't ask, 150 books sent in, and they were gone in 10 minutes. I was shocked to find there were thieves in prison. You know what I mean? And so they would say, so what institutions were you with? What institutions you've been at? And I'm like, New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange. And they're talking about like what prisons have you been at?
Of course, yeah.
Well, you say, of course, I had no idea.
No, but the second you said that, I'm like, are they talking about prisons?
Right, they were laughing at me because I'm like literally saying New York Stock Exchange, member of the Boca Raton Hotel and Beach Club. And I'm trying to think of where I'm a member, like, Friars Club. And then they say, they talk, they brag, I was the man in Hialeah. I had, 18th and Vine. I was my block, bro. I mean, we were doing two keys a week, bro. 2 keys a week. Then another guy'd be like, yeah, well, I'm from D.C., man. Right, 2 blocks from the White House, Avenue G and 8th Street. We would turn it 3 keys a week. And this would go around like a whole thing, and they'd say, I'd be like, you guys are punk-ass bitches. I'm from Wall Street, bro. We do $3 trillion a day.
Indeed is a success story partner. Now, say you just realized your business needed to hire someone fast. How can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed Sponsored Jobs, there's no monthly subscription, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed, and listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility. Just go to Indeed.com/Clary right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Clary. Terms and conditions apply. If you're hiring, Indeed is all you need. NetSuite is a success story partner. Now, what does the future hold for business? If you ask 9 experts, you're going to get 10 answers. Bull market, bear market, interest rates are rising, they're falling. Honestly, at the end of the day, we just need a crystal ball. But until then, over 42,000 businesses have trusted and future-proofed themselves with NetSuite by Oracle, the #1 cloud ERP, bringing accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR into one cohesive platform. With one unified business management suite, there's one source of truth giving you the visibility and control that you need to make quick decisions. With real-time insights and forecasting, you're peering into the future with actionable data. And when you're closing the books in days, not weeks, you're spending less time looking backwards and more time on what's next. If I needed this kind of business management system, NetSuite is exactly what I'd use. So whether or not your company is earning millions or even hundreds of millions, NetSuite helps you respond to immediate challenges in your business and seize your biggest opportunities. And speaking of opportunity, you have to download the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning. The guide is free for all listeners. That's netsuite.com/Scott Clary. Right now, everybody knows you're into finance young. Yeah, you had a rough couple years in terms of like drugs and just probably just going very hard in all aspects of life.
Oh, working hard, playing hard.
Yeah. But just briefly, you don't have to go through everything, but briefly talk about sort of like what you were able to accomplish before the government came after you for $140 million. And also why, with the moves that you made over your career, did they choose to come after you?
Early in my career, largely due to the drugs and alcohol, being young, stupid, and not having a good idea, not understanding how I was supposed to really conduct myself or handle myself. I got advice. My father passed away when I was 16, and I lacked a North Star, a moral compass, a figure that would, say, hey, tighten up, get in here. My father was one of the most honest, decent, hardworking men he was the most that I had ever encountered in my life. And I was very angry when he passed. I was medicating myself with, I'm a garbage head, drugs, alcohol, but the cocaine really is what brought me to my knees ultimately. And I started out at a what they call a wirehouse. Merrill Lynch, E.F. Hutton, Smith Barney, Payne Weber, they're big recognizable names. And we basically like a supermarket or a smorgasbord. We could sell you car insurance, life insurance, health insurance. I could build your stock portfolio, do your IRA, your Keogh plan if you have a business, own and operate a business. I was a bond salesman. I did T-bills and munis and corporates and, everything you could think of. If you said to me, this is what I want to do, I'd say, you know what? I'm an expert in that field. But I was at a firm that trained me and licensed me in all these areas. And I was very frustrated after a year because I had opened 300 plus accounts, which is like some sort of like.
Is that a record?
When I tell the story, people are like, oh my God, like guys in the business 25 years never had.
What's the dollar value when you do something like that? Like how much money you bring the firm?
Well, what happens is the firm just wants customers. I brought in 330 customers cold from scratch with no help, no leads. Nothing special, no cost to the firm. And I generate like 330,000 my first year. And the firm gets, I can't even tell you how much they make. Now, here's the funny thing. So, I didn't understand then how much the firm is making on me or anything. You just know, like, for every dollar you in commission, the firm is keeping half, you're getting half, something like that. But what happens is every time you buy or sell something at a bank or a firm, they're making money in ways you haven't even thought about this. This is a business. This is a business about money. They curate every transaction, affects maybe or kicks off, is a catalyst for another 5 transactions you don't even know about. They short you the stock, they short you the unit trust, then they have to go in and trade and get. So now they have some power. They have now know what paying customers willing to pay for a certain amount of shares of stock or units of a trust or membership interest in LLC, et cetera. It gets very technical. But, it's broken down 15 ways by Tuesday that very smart guys have been analyzing for 100 years to see how they can use that to their advantage, and they have figured it out. So I was ranked number 1 out of a class of out of 150 guys starting out in 1984 at E.F. Hutton, which was the number 1 and number 2 training platform ever. And to this day, everybody was, wow, bro, you were an E.F. Hutton guy. It was the best training program. And that's why I picked it, because it had that reputation. So I became a very hot prospect instantly. So I'm like a ball player. In my first year, I'm scoring 20 points a game. I'm a lockdown defender. I'm getting rebounds. I'm getting assists. I'm a team player. I don't cause any trouble for anybody. Now, in the meantime, I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm drinking. I'm smoking. I'm snorting every day. But I'm young and I can do it. But you know what? Everybody's doing it. That's what I'm thinking. Everybody's doing it. And I found my crowd of people that were doing it. There are people at every single firm partying like that. It's just a fact. And the funny thing is, flash forward, when I did get clean, nobody wanted to hire me when I was clean. You're an AA. What does that mean, AA? You don't drink. You don't drink during the day. You don't drink during the week. I don't understand. I mean, what do you on Friday night, I'm having people over. My daughter's, she's being bat mitzvah. She's getting a christening, and we're going to be serving wine. You're not going to have a drink? I'm like, no. You would think that would make me more attractive to serious people. They wanted big balls Ross Mandell, who's buying drinks for everybody at the bar and who's hungover, smoking cigarettes, going through a pack or 2 a day at my desk. Back in those days, you could smoke. Yeah. Everybody had big ashtrays. Everybody had flasks and bottles, in their desk.
It's
We're all drinking.
Funny how times change. Wild.
It's amazing how the media was able to influence so many people. Like, smoking is the devil today. People that smoke today tell me I'm like the devil. They have a little box in Manhattan outside. They go on the curb. It's 10 feet from the entrance, and it's a little thing like a penalty box.
Yeah,
hockey.
exactly.
And they sit there and they suck down their cigarettes. And I feel like I'm an idiot.
People don't drink as much anymore either.
They don't.
I just heard an interesting stat. One of my friends works with cruise lines, and he says that the drinking's down significantly on the cruise lines. But you know what happens when the drinking's good? That people are so funny. This is a total aside, but I thought it was an interesting point. So they expect that when people drink less, they'd spend less money at the casino. And he says that's not the case, because when people now know that if they drink, they're expecting to get fucked at the casino. So they go to the casino thinking, I'm sober, I'm going to win. And they get fucked 3x.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So now drinking's down on cruises, and casino revenue is like 3 or 4x what it was before COVID.
Is that crazy?
People are so funny, and they always try and beat the system, but the system always beats them regardless. But anyways,
it's funny, 'cause I have friends that play poker, and they purposely don't. They drink. They like to drink, but when they go play poker, they won't drink.
yeah. But the average gambler thinks if they're sober, they're going to beat the house, and they never win.
The odds are the odds.
The odds are the odds.
Pure math.
Yeah. Anyway,
Exactly.
back to your. So this was a different time than what a lot of people live in right now. Obviously, not people aren't smoking at their desk. People aren't drinking. Well, some. I'm sure people in finance still drink and do a whole bunch of blow. Like, I'm pretty sure this has not changed that much.
All happening right now.
But,
by the way, if you're in finance and you have a guy that has a problem, call me. I do consulting for some Fortune 500 companies. And if you have an executive that you want to protect, you don't know how to handle him, he's very valuable to the organization, but he might suffer from the disease of addiction or alcoholism, we can help you. Ross Mandell, reach out, info@rossmandell.com. We'll help you.
When you were going through the more stressful parts of your story, you never went back and felt that you had to go rely on substances or anything like that to get through it?
I actually wanted to swallow a bullet, if that's, I don't know if you get to that substance. Many times, and I share this a lot, I pray to God, I don't want to wake up tomorrow. I don't want to face tomorrow. I was found guilty of 4 counts. I'm going in with my family to be sentenced by the judge. The lawyers tell me 50%, 50-50. They're going to remand you. They're going to take you into custody right then and there. So put all your valuables in a plastic bag and be prepared to hand it to your wife or your lawyer, because they're going to take you right in, and whatever you have on you is probably going to end up missing. And, I just want a Rolex, all these, expensive things. And I just don't want to, God, I just don't want to wake up tomorrow. So that, I've had pressure that's been that big where drinking or taking a pill wouldn't do anything. I'm facing real stress. We have a lot of manufactured stress. That's part of the disease of addiction. In your mind, whatever the stress is in real life, whatever's going on in your mind, it makes it there's a virality effect. It's magnified times 1,000. And no, if I felt like any of that would have helped me, I would have picked up.
Tell me the rest of the story about what made them want to come after you.
I will explain it to you. So by the time I got clean, 1990, I had racked up about 9 customer arbitrations.
These are civil.
All civil. Yeah. And I'll give you an example. We do $1 million deals on the phone.
You're asking somebody to invest.
I say, Scott, look, you have an account with me. I say, Scott, look, I got a very good feeling about steel, U.S. Steel, symbol X, member of the Dow 30. Carl Icahn's been buying stock. I got a very good feeling. It's something I want you to own. And you say, all right, Ross, it's a real company. I know steel. I want you to own 10,000 shares. It's $30 a share. Can you get me $300,000 in the next week? But I'm buying it. If you say yes, I'm buying it right there, 10,000 shares. You say, you know what? Let's do it. I said, thank you. I'll call you back, or have my girl call you back with an execution. So I buy you the 10,000 shares. It's $300,000. I just made like a $9,000 commission. My assistant calls you up. The trade's confirmed. Okay? 2-3 weeks go by. Stock goes down 3 points. It's now 27. Now, you have had it confirmed by my assistant. You told me, let's do it. You got a confirmation in the mail, and very well might have got a monthly statement in between. You call me up and you say, bro, what's going on? I thought you really knew something. You had a good feeling. I said, I do. Okay, it didn't happen as quickly. Oftentimes there were delays. Sometimes my information is so fresh, it takes a minute for it to sift through the market. But I just want you to, be patient. It's a great company. We're going to come out of this more than whole. You're going to be very happy with me. You say, I don't really remember authorizing this trade. What do you mean? I was excited because you were so passionate, but I really wanted to think about it. I'm like, you put $300,000 in the account. The trade was confirmed. You say, yeah, Ross, don't be like that. I wasn't sure. And I say, listen, so now whatever I was doing the night before is worn off. I'm thinking about meeting my coke guy, later tonight. I'm all edgy. And here you are fucking with me. And I'm like, Scott, go fuck yourself. You say, I don't want the stock. I said, you want me to sell out the stock? Yeah, there's a $30,000 hit if you sell it right now. I strongly advise you not to do that. I never authorized that trade. So now I'm doing literally sometimes 100 trades a day, dozens of trades with dozens of different guys. And there were times these kind of things happen, these kind of disagreements. But amongst two gentlemen in the heat of battle, things can be said, things can be discussed, things can be worked out. The odds of this going to a legal issue down the road is very rare.
Cost you more than $30,000.
The whole thing. You too. I mean, it's going to be a nightmare for you, the whole thing. And, but I'm very abrasive, edgy. I'm hungover. I need some more drugs in me or a drink. The stock is down 3 points, and I didn't expect that. And I own it too, and everybody owns it. I'm getting a lot of calls like this, and I'm like, and now all of a sudden it went from I'm not sure if I authorize it to I didn't authorize this trade. I want my money back. And I'm like, you know what, Scott? Go fuck yourself. This is bullshit. You know it and I know it. You go, I'm going to sue your ass, Ross. I'm going to complain. And I'm like, you know what? I'll see you in arbitration in 6 years. Go fuck yourself. And I'd hang up the phone. Instead of trying to be, you just wanted your hand held. You wanted to be coddled. You understand. Things happen in business all the time, right? But I wasn't having it. I was very edgy. The markets did go up and down like crazy. And I just was, and so one guy actually, we went to arbitration. We show up my lawyer. He's there with his lawyer. The panel's there, this whole thing. He goes, I told you I'd see you in 6 years. And he quoted me. And it became a topic in this arbitration. And
but this isn't when the government.
No, this is an example. So they say like this. They never close the file. When you're in this kind of, it's a regulated industry. It's heavily regulated. For them to say I was doing something wrong was ridiculous. Because they said, before they ever came at me criminally, they had 9 different examiners and different regulators come in, including the SEC, who cleared me on every audit. We never had a problem. We never had an issue. We were completely mindful and in good order and all that kind of stuff. There was our documents I spent the most money on legal fees. And because by the time I had my own firm and I was in business for myself, at the time the government got interested in me, I had already had these issues I was dealing with. Eventually, everything was settled. I settled every arbitration, dealt with everything, won most, lost a couple. Everybody was paid. Everybody was whole. And then the stock exchange came at me, and I made a blanket settlement with them for all the activity that happened pre-1990 while I was still using, because they knew my story very well. And they said, Mr. Mandell, this is the New York Stock Exchange. We offered the money. They said, we know you have a lot of money, and we know you're a great earner. We follow your career very closely. I'm a member of the exchange there. I'm regulated. They said, we don't want your money. We want you to take 6 weeks off and go to the beach. And think about how fortunate you are to still be in this business. So I was suspended by the New York Stock Exchange, no fine, because I had the money. But I went to Puerto Rico with my girlfriend for a month. And just so you guys all know, I made more money trading the market during that 6 weeks than any other time in my life. I was so determined to make money. I was so, oh, fuck you. And, I'll show you. I'm like that kind of guy. Tell me, I'm like Dana White. Tell me I can't. Go ahead. Tell me I can't. I love that shit. I live for that. Like, that's like giving me extra motivation. Like,
I know.
So now, by the time the 90s come along, I'm sober. I'm killing it. And life is easy, business is easy.
You're back with NYSE.
I'm fully good, and I'm at a firm. I'm waiting for my firm to be approved, but I'm working at a firm. My firm I was at went out of business, and they were acquired by a big firm, and the big firm fired a lot of people, but they paid me. Not only did they keep me, they gave me $150,000 to stay. I was okay with that. I'm working on my own firm. They don't know this. I take the money, and I'm doing business. They call me in one day. This is the president of the firm, the owner of the firm, big shot. His partner is a guy named Paul Fitzgerald, who's the former president of the New York Stock Exchange, the chairman. Right before this guy, Dick Grasso, who was very well known because of 9/11. He was the chairman during 9/11. This guy before that in the 90s. And they had a deal, and they were offering me tens of millions of dollars to do this deal. And that's why they gave me the $150,000 up front, because they knew I was the only one capable of doing this deal. And it was a very sexy little company out of New Jersey. They had some sort of cure or treatment for a disease. And it looked really great on paper. It was already public. It had a following, stockholders, all these different things. Great IR, PR. When you look at the company, it looks great. And they say, we want you to start buying and take a position with your clients. I had hundreds and hundreds of clients. I'm representing, probably several $100 million at this time in my client money, plus my own money, et cetera. They said, they want me to take over this particular company. So typically when you're a public company, you have investment banks that you pay to keep pumping out research on your company, keeping the shareholders up to date, et cetera. If you're not a giant like a McDonald's or a Microsoft, there's a game you play. There's protocols and ways to do things. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Companies go public. You hire a couple of investment banks. You pay. If there's a big stock issue, there's a guy that can step in and maybe clean up the stock, meaning some of the guys bought the stock for $1 and now it's $5. They want to sell 500,000 shares of stock. There's really no buyers for that kind of size, but they find a guy to position the stock because he believes in the story, et cetera. And they wanted me to be that guy for this company. And they were willing to give me $10 million cash on top of anything I could earn. And this is from a guy that was the president of the New York Stock Exchange and the CEO of this big, big brokerage company. And I'm like, what's the catch? I'm thinking, this is real money. I might have had money, but this is real money to do a deal that that sounded great, looked great, and everything else, right?
Yeah, of course.
But it was a scam. They had all their partners and friends and their own money in it. And whatever this technology was, it turns out it was a bust.
And you were going to be the scapegoat?
They wanted me to be the guy that took all of their friends out, their partners, their best customers, them. My guys would come in and buy millions of shares. I would be promoting. And by the way, when I started buying I was the kind of guy on Wall Street at some point at this time. If I decided to buy something and take a big position, there was like 30, 40 guys around Wall Street that followed my lead, thought I had a very good sense of value. And they would jump in. So at my trial, years later, they said that I was a cult leader on Wall Street. And that if Ross Mandell decided to raise his staff, the stock would go up $3. That's power. And that's true. But not because I fucked people. I bought scams that I knew were bad. And I bagged everybody so I can get a payday under the table. And that's ultimately the crime that a couple of brokers at my firm got involved in. And that's what brought the feds into my firm. And that's what they try to pin on me later. But I turned down this deal. And then they threatened me. They said, if you don't do this deal, because now they showed me, like, what's wrong with this company.
But they showed you what was wrong.
They admitted to me. They said, listen, we want to be up front. It's not going to be a great ending. But you'll have $10 million cash, plus you'll probably make another $5 or $10 million during buying all the stock and doing all these things. And I said, no, I didn't get sober. I live by those principles to this day. To cheat people, to lie to people, to rob people for money. I make money. I earn money. I don't need to beg people in a bad stock deal. I buy real stocks and I get paid for it. I have good information. I get great information flow to this minute. And they said, well, the Wall Street Journal's been calling us, and they want to do a story, a big story, on rogue brokers. And your name came up. You're very famous in the business. But we can protect you.
So they were threatening you. They were blackmailing.
Extorted me.
Extorting you.
And what did I do? I said, fellas, thanks, but no thanks. Go fuck yourself. And I left, and they made my life miserable. But they didn't know I had already applied to have my own firm. I had already done all the work. I'd already raised millions of dollars, all these different things. And so I get a call by this guy, Jeffrey Taylor, Wall Street Journal. It's the first time I really make this paper. He's writing a front page story. He wrote the biggest story, March 14th, 1996, it came out. This all started in 1995. I managed to stall the journal, and this writer was a hit piece.
On just you?
Well, I'll explain it to you.
Yeah.
They used me. They wrote my entire life story to indict the regulatory system of Wall Street. And they used me, my whole life story, 5,250 words. They literally went to my hometown and knocked on doors. They went to my high school, interviewed my teachers. They interviewed customers that I had issues with, some of these stories I told you earlier. And front page Wall Street Journal. And they used my story. Like, how could this guy still be in the business? He's had 9 arbitrations. He was an admitted drug dealer. He was doing cocaine. He admits that he was abrasive, this and that. And I submitted myself to 3 8-hour interviews with this writer, sharing my life story. Because my lawyer said, you're going to be approved for this firm in the next couple of months. But if this guy puts this story out, they're going to deny you. You'll never own a firm. So I said, what should I do? They said, the best thing to do is stall. I said, how do I stall? They said, nobody can talk like you, Ross. He's going to sit down and you start telling him your life story. And by the end of the day, you'll be up to like high school. You'll be up to first year in college. And you're so interested, they're going to want to come back and get more. They think they're getting more information on you, what you're doing, you're stalling. And then when all the lawyers, because the Wall Street Journal had 3 lawyers, I had 3 lawyers with all their scheduling, they get on their little Blackberries at the time. We could kick it, we'll stall them a few more months. So so he writes 3 grueling 8-hour interviews. And I even said to the guy, I said, look, I don't know why you're using me for this. I could be a great source for you as a reporter. If you don't skewer me with this story, I could be a valuable story. I'm on the inside of I'm a big guy in this scam. I'm on the come up. That's my graph.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like Scott Clary's friggin' podcast career. I'm going. And he wrote that. I offered him that deal in the front page of Wall Street Journal. I tried to bribe him. You know what I mean? And so eventually the story comes out March 14th, 1996. I'm on the front page of the newspaper. I'm the headline on the news. I was living in an apartment in Manhattan in a very fancy building. And when I walked downstairs, we had a big desk, imagine a very fancy kind of hotel, but it's a co-op, a big apartment. And, the guy everyone had the papers, everyone in the building got Wall Street Journal. They all asked me if I would autograph it. The girl that was working for me, this stunning young sales assistant that was working for me, this gorgeous blue-eyed blonde, built like nobody's business, was working for me. She actually slept with me that week because I was now like a big celebrity. And of course I married her. Steffi, I just want to say I didn't forget you. and I was like what's the name of that men's magazine? GQ. Wanted to make me a cover story, The Bad Boy of Wall Street. And I should have done it because I would have had it forever. But my lawyers talked me out of all that because by now I'd been approved already and I owned my own firm. And when that story came out, friggin' 500 guys came to my. So in the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordy Belfort talks about how he was in Forbes and they called him the Wolf of Wall Street. That's an entirely fabricated story. He used my story for that scene. He was never called the Wolf of Wall Street. He made that name up all by himself. He was not in Forbes, didn't do a story on him. That's my honest, true story. You don't believe? March 14th, 1996. And the title of the story was, they used my high school yearbook quote. Lately it occurs to me what a long, strange trip it's been. That was my high school quote. I was only 17 and already I felt like what a long, strange trip it's been. I was 17 years old. That's my high school quote, yearbook quote. And they had my yearbook picture. And they wrote this entire 5,250 word story. The biggest story in the history of the Dow Jones Corporation that owned the Wall Street Journal. At that time was the number one selling paper in the whole world on planet Earth. And it was the biggest story at that time ever written on somebody. But all of a sudden, every regulator in this business and in government put my picture up. The SEC called later that day and said, Mr. Mandell, we just want to call you and we just opened up an investigation of you. I'm like, why? They said, son, you're on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. And it's not a good look. Because in that business, any press is considered bad press. And I fought like hell not to be in this paper. That's what began my journey as sort of becoming a household name in that industry.
And when something like that happens, they have to investigate.
Of course they do.
They have to investigate. It's not even a choice at that point.
No. The guy was a lovely guy. They called me. I never spoke to the SEC again until they charged me. And they charged me. It's the same thing they would have charged me with in 1996.
So did the SEC lead to the FBI?
Well, that's the misnomer, so you know. Because the SEC had done an investigation and found everything we did. Every T was crossed and because of that story, I was the most analyzed, registered representative in the history of the industry. So when you open up a brokerage firm, if you and Nelson were brokers and you started your own firm, they got the FINRA would say for every 15 brokers you have to have a compliance officer. Compliance guy gets like $180,000 a year. Yeah. Okay. For every 15 brokers, you have to have one. I had to have one for every 4 brokers. Because I'm Ross Mandell. Yeah. And I did. And we were squeaky fucking clean. Because by the time I was already a wealthy guy. I was being audited 5 times more normally than anybody else. But even after that story, and then there were several other stories written about me as a result. But then what happened was I had my own firm, and I started doing really great business. And I got into some great deals. And at some point, the Wall Street Journal, I was doing a deal, and we wanted to call one of my partners, I'm going to call the Journal, because I wanted to see what they think about Ross Mandell. Otherwise, we don't want to put out a story. And he goes, wow, now the Wall Street Journal is Ross Mandell neutral. So the next time I was on the cover of the Wall Street Journal was a good story. And I went into the Homeland Security business right after 9/11. And I was funding companies that were helping the American public deal with national security. Tom Homan, who is now the border czar of the United States in Trump's cabinet. He's on TV like every 2 days. Yeah. Thomas Homan. He was the number 2 man at the new organization called the Department of Homeland Security. People don't realize that's only been around since 2002. It was formed as a result of the failures of 9/11, allowed 9/11 to happen. They made the biggest agency in the history of this country called the Department of Homeland Security. And Tom Homan was the number 2 guy. And he came to work for me. He served on my boards because I was in the Homeland Security business. And the government had a very positive view of me at this point.
So everything was good.
Hunky-dory, killing it.
Everything was good.
I'm killing it. And then I take my brokerage firm, I go to London and I get public in London. Big. There hadn't been a deal on either side of the Atlantic since 9/11.
ShipStation is a success story partner. You know what separates successful online businesses from literally everyone else? It's not just having great products. It's delivering an amazing shipping experience that keeps customers coming back. All of my friends that run the biggest e-commerce companies, they use ShipStation, and it has completely transformed how they handle orders. They save thousands on shipping costs thanks to their rate chopper tool that finds the best discounts. And what makes ShipStation brilliant, you never need to upgrade because it grows with your business no matter how big you get. And they offer discounts up to 88% off UPS, DHL Express, and USPS rates, and up to 90% off FedEx. It integrates seamlessly with every selling channel you're already using, and your customers get branded tracking updates to keep them happy and informed. When shoppers choose your products, you turn them into loyal customers with cheaper, faster, and better shipping. No credit card required. Cancel anytime. That's ShipStation.com, code SuccessStory. HubSpot is a success story partner. Now, the future of business is happening right now, and you don't want to miss it. That's why you have to be at Inbound 2025. They are bringing together the brightest minds in marketing, sales, business, entrepreneurship, AI for 3 incredible days in San Francisco, the global epicenter of innovation and technological disruption. Picture this. You are learning directly from Amy Poehler about creative leadership. You're getting AI insights from Dario Amodi, who's literally shaping the future of artificial intelligence. Here's what makes Inbound special. It's not just the great keynotes. You're going to dive into breakout sessions where you can immediately implement what you learn. And plus, San Francisco's legendary startup ecosystem provides the perfect backdrop for networking with all these great entrepreneurs, decision makers, industry leaders, peers who are actively shaping the future of business. From September 3rd to 5th at the Moscone Center, you're going to be surrounded by forward-thinking professionals who turn insights and ideas into breakthroughs. Don't just watch the future unfold, be part of creating it. Visit inbound.com/register to get your ticket today. So explain to people what you're actually doing at this point. Like what, because yes, I understand it, but for the average person, I don't think they understand the difference between a company going public on the New York Stock Exchange or the TSX or the London Exchange. I don't even know what that one's called, but explain what you did when you moved to London, why you moved to London.
Okay, so what happened
That
was
was kind of like the first thing that started to get this whole fucking FBI thing.
Well, what happened was this. The company that I formed in 95, during this whole fiasco of that story being written, that I was stalling, I got approved. It was called Roan Capital, ROAN. A guy named Jerry Roth. Jerry, I hope you're okay. Bedford, New York. He's a rich guy. He was a trader at Spielitz Kellogg. Goldman Sachs bought out Spielitz Kellogg. He became a very, very wealthy guy. I bought this stock brokerage from him. I called it Roan Capital. He's a horse breeder. Roan colored horses were his favorite color. That's where the name comes from. There's always a lot of people trying to think, what's R-O-A-N? R-O is for Ross. Who's the A-N? Who's the secret partner? It was the color of a horse. He was a horse collector. It was this whole thing. People are so crazy. And I bought that company in 95. I got approved to own it. That's what I was waiting for, that approval, and run it. And within 20 months, less than 2 years, I sold it. It was the hottest brokerage firm in New York City. Blackstone. Everybody knows who Blackstone is. Blackstone is sitting in my space in the office that I had decorated by a very famous interior decorator in New York named Ken Walker. And probably the third biggest private equity firm in the world right now. They took my space. That's the space that I decorated and designed. And so I retired. I built this firm. I made a lot of money, an exit. And, but when I sold the company, my personal clients didn't want to go with these guys that were buying the company. And I had a huge business, 12 guys working for me, my own book. So Mike Nelson came to me at the time and said, listen, you're done. I get it. You made a lot of money. I make sure everybody get paid, but I had met my future wife at this place. So I was involved in a Hollywood type fantasy romance and courtship, and we're traveling and just doing all kinds of great things together, and settling down, planning a family. And the guys that worked for me said, listen, I parked them. I made sure they were okay. They didn't want to work at the the people that bought the firm, there was a couple of guys I knew very well. I call them friends. Were working owned a small investment bank called Thornwater. It was a limited partnership, LLP, and it was right across the street. It was in a brownstone. They owned a brownstone in New York, which is probably today worth $150 million. It was right across the street from my apartment where I was living. So I parked my 12 guys in that space. I let them continue with the business. The brokerage, our brokerage business, just our client business, was generating, probably $500,000 a month. And I was the biggest beneficiary of that. And that was just like, I let the guys have most of it. And at some point they came to me and said, listen, you're so good at this. You put together a firm, the Wall Street Journal, everybody's hunting you, and you put together the hottest firm in New York, and in less than 2 years, you walked away, $50 million. You understand this whole thing. I mean, we don't want to work for these people. We do all this business. These guys go out to lunch, they smoke cigars, they drink all day, and we're giving them $150,000 a month. He said, we want to have our own firm. I said, I didn't want to do that. I had just done that. I wasn't interested really. It's a lot of work.
I mean, you can retire at this point.
I was retired. I was sort of retired. I wasn't really working. I wasn't. So they said, look, I get engaged. I get married. I buy my wife a big house on Long Island on the beach. We have a beautiful apartment in Manhattan. We start making babies and we get dogs and all these good things. And then these guys are begging me. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I don't want to own shit. I don't want to own shit. But if you want it in your name and you want to run it and this and that, I'll help you. So I did. I walked them through the whole thing. Now, later on, the government would accuse me of secretly owning the firm. Why would I have to secretly own this firm? I owned a firm 5 minutes before and 10 minutes after in my name. Why would I secretly own this little shit bucket of a firm? Do you understand how they try and
I do understand.
They try and find the crime when there was none. That's their big thing. You secretly ran this broker-dealer. I didn't secretly own anything. Anything I own. And if I don't want to own it, I don't own it. I'm not interested. I mean, it's the stupidest thing in the world. If it's worth owning, I'm going to own it. But if I'm helping a guy, I'm helping a guy. So now these guys that worked for me were not the sharpest guys, the hardworking good guys. The second they had their own firm, drinking, smoking, snorting, because now they're making real money, making a couple of million a month. We're killing it. Any place I seemed to go in the brokerage world, everybody wanted to come. I'm just like a guy's guy. I'm a broker's broker. Yeah. I know the game. I'm very verbal. I'm very good at orating, and I'm a natural leader. And so once I got the hang of it, I don't need anybody else. I just do, and then if guys want to come in, the more the merrier. Let's go. As long as you're clean and you're a decent guy. These guys stop being decent guys, stop being clean guys. And at some point along the way, I said, you know what? I don't even want to be associated with these guys anymore. This came up my trial. I said, you guys want to get rid of me? Because I complain. But it's not my firm. I don't have the power. But I'm a Ross Mandell, and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't approve of that. So they started doing things, sneaking around, domestic violence, beating up their girlfriends because they're stoned. They're doing all kinds of crazy. You guys went crazy. They went crazy. Like when I was in my early 20s, when I went crazy, they went crazy. They were going crazy. Because they never would have ever had access to this kind of money or power. But I showed them. I gave them, and I put the key in the engine. And I showed them how to do all these different things. So I said, I got to get out of this. I got to get myself extricated from this. So I said, I'll tell you what, guys, we made a deal, a legitimate deal. They were lawyered. I was lawyered. It was, adversarial, but we came to a deal. They're paying me $70,000 a month, ad infinitum. For them, it's a great deal because the business is making $700,000 a month. With my business that I let them run. I took $70,000 a month. I said, I'm out. We have a baby. We're at the beach. 2000, at the end of the 90s, I'm making money in the market. I'm trading this. I'm trading that. Everything.com. I'm very content. I'm set up. I'm now married. I've got a child. I have 2 dogs, a beach house, and a beautiful Manhattan apartment. 4-car. I have the perfect life. And I'm sitting at my, so one day my daughter was, she was born in February of 2000. She's a few months old. And in March of 2000 was the big .com crash. The .com bubble burst. And to give you an example, the biggest company in the world was called WorldCom, telephone company. Went to zero. Fraud. Biggest company in the world. The 4th biggest company in America, the biggest energy company, zero. Enron. Zeroed out. Lucent Technologies, A+ rated, a Bell company, from 82 to 0. The Amazon, the Jeff Bezos Amazon, you guys all know, $330 to 3. And it's been revealed now by Jeff Bezos himself was that he was close to going out of business for months after months, close to going to bankruptcy. Almost missed payroll, all these different things. The end of the world, apparently. And they're parading people on television. I'm sitting there babysitting for my newly born kid. And I'm watching CNBC. I had a beautiful office at a beach house, 5,000 square feet. I put $800,000 into the backyard with multi-level decks and gardens and all kinds of great stuff. And I'm watching all these guys, they're parading on television, trying to promote the market. It's just a quick downturn. Buy the dip. It's going to come back. If you got quality, everything comes back. It's the stock market. Moron after moron after moron they're parading. And I'm looking at this going, nobody gets it. I don't get it. I can't imagine how stupid everybody is. Every once in a while, the deck is reshuffled in every industry. It's just a law of business. If you study business, if you study industry, you'll see it happens all the time. And I'm listening to these people, and I take out a pad, and I start doing what I do. Stephanie will always say, I always know by how many pads you have out and how much money we're going to make. And so I have my pads out, and I'm sketching some shit, and I realize something at that moment. I already have the house, the wife, the kid, the cars, the dogs. I'm happy. My drug of choice has always been more. Pick up the phone, I call one of my favorite lawyers, and I say, Rick, let me tell you what I want to do. And I walk him through the structure of a brand new international investment bank and brokerage business. I said, nobody gets it. We're going to be able to buy assets for 5 cents on the dollar in the burnt out brokerage sector. And I create a prospectus, a document. And I give them the structure. I'm going to own 7 million shares. There's going to be another 7 million shares in the treasury. I'm going to sell 6 million shares for $1.50. We'll bring in $9 million. We'll pay $1 million in commissions. And then I want to get 1 million shares I'm going to give out to people I care about that have value. And I'm going to take that company public on a foreign stock exchange. He's like, you drinking again?
So this is really not a thing when you're pitching this idea to him.
I'm not pitching him. I'm telling him what I'm going to do.
But it's not an idea that anyone's done before.
No. But I feel like people just don't get certain things. And it was just a wide open opportunity. It's like what I see in the media game.
Yeah, but you see
it's what I see today.
You see things different.
Of course I do.
That's why you make money.
I have a different sense of vision. I've been in a different game than most people. I actually see the field. I see how the plays evolve. You know, it's like Listen, I never played hockey. And I go to watch a hockey game, and I love it so quick. I have no idea what the fuck's going on. But they have like organized plays, and guys have positions, and guys position themselves
You know,
up
when you
and down
play
the
hockey,
ice.
I'll tell you something. When you play hockey, there's a sense that you develop when you play hockey, and it only comes from doing it for long enough. But when you're on the ice, because hockey moves like that, it's insanely fast. And when you're on the ice, you know exactly what's going to happen. It's like there's nothing else except you've just seen that thing 1,000 times, and you know exactly what's going to happen. Every single sequence of events before it happens, about 5 to 10 seconds or 30 seconds before, and you have this sense. So I know when one guy dumps a puck in, I know where I don't even have it in my vision, right. And I can tell you
feel it
without looking where every single person is on the ice behind me, and exactly where they're going, and exactly where they've been, and exact play they're going to do next. But when you're playing with the pros, everyone has that.
Exactly right. You're
which is
competing
fun.
with all that.
Everyone has it, but it's like you have this sixth sense. This, you know, you can see into the future, and
an instinct, a sense, a vision. So just so you know, I have that with the stock market.
Yeah,
and I have
exactly
that.
What you mean?
But even better than that, I have it. I specifically have it. You know, so you're talking about like situational hockey.
Yeah.
Right? They dump the puck. They get into the crease. You know the moves that happen. Okay, so I see what's coming with media, technology, and the stock market. I see it. You see a podcaster named Joe Rogan who gets a $200 million contract from Spotify. And people say to me, how could they pay Joe Rogan $200 million? Were they crazy? And I see what Spotify's going to do.
Well, you also see what Spotify made on their market cap.
I know. Well, that's secondary.
Yeah, I know.
I see where this is going.
Yes.
I see all the offshoots that are coming. I get it. I see it like I see the two of you sitting here. It's crystal clear to me. And in 2000, I saw the same thing. And so I created it. I created like almost a thesis. And I wrote it. And that's called Sky Capital. I'm writing one now for Raw Media. The same thing. I just want you to understand that. I'm saying this live. Hello, how are you? To his 700,000 followers and subscribers. I see it clear as day. And that's why I'm doing Raw Media. Because I don't need this. You know what I mean? I should just go to some people. Why don't you just go buy a boat and go around the world and this and that? Because this is a legacy thing for me. I don't want the last big chapter and verse written on the story of Ross Mandell to be he went to prison. Made a lot of noise in the stock market, and then they got him because he's a crook. I ain't gonna. That's not my legacy. That's not the way I'm going out. I want something that my family, my kids, everybody else can see. That my years of being wrongfully prosecuted, wrongfully incarcerated, and they illegally marshaled the evidence against me. I want that record to say this is just an asterisk in the story of Ross Mandell. Just like Donald Trump's story is not going to be that he was a 77-year-old ex-president billionaire who was convicted of 92 counts, felony counts, and then they took away his business. They took away the money from his children, all the different things that they were going to do to him. If he didn't win this election, Donald Trump is in prison right now, just so you know. And, you know, you can change the past by doing things today. That's what Kabbalah says. And I gave someone an example of that recently. And to make a long story short, so it's 2000. I sketch out a proposition, and people laughed at me. They laughed at me. All the guys that were paying the $70,000 a month, that were cheating customers and getting jailed for domestic violence and doing drugs during the day all the things that are ridiculous. They laughed at me. They all thought, the market collapsed in March of 2000. It's coming back soon. I ended up buying their firm for paper. I signed them all up. I gave none of them an upfront dollar. I bought the assets of 9 different firms in a year for no money. Paper. Turns out the paper had a lot of value because I'm good at this kind of thing. I bought a whole bank for $120 million. I only paid, it was, the bank had 100,000 customers with accounts and had done 500 million in turnover the year before. I only spent 2 million cash. I bought them for 20 million shares of stock at $6. And they got the money. They got the whole 122 million. Because I'm good at it. But, so I made this proposition. They laughed. I created a document. I created a website. I lined up people that I respect, like, and know could add value. I pitched it, and then a couple of guys put money in. Then all of a sudden, and I was doing this, I took a space. I didn't want to be associated with this other firm, the one I'm accused of secretly controlling. I took a space down the block, 110 Wall Street, nice building. I took a room about this big, $1,000 a month. I hired a little Puerto Rican girl that needed a job. She was no good, but Mary, I'm sorry, but how are you, baby? Hope you're good. She's like a great grandmother, and she's like 30. The girls in her family, they sexually active very early, apparently, or I don't know how they do it, but they have kids, you know. And she's like this good-looking 35-year-old girl, and she's already a grandmother. I'm like, I don't understand I understand the math, right?
Math on that,
right? It's so crazy. So from that room, that $1,000 a month suite, next thing you know, the guys across the street see, I take a whole floor at 110 Wall Street. And I send Dell $2 million and buy all the best equipment they have, because my network guy for the plan that I had a very ambitious plan, global trading, cross-border, et cetera, different currencies, all that. I needed, we didn't have the cloud then. Everything was the land, the local, everything was, you had your own network, had to be locked out. The room was like, it was like a holy temple. It had to be like 60, 63 degrees. I had to have a guy 24/7, alarms, this, that, back and forth. So I get this Dell equipment delivered. A month later, 9/11 hits. I'm the only one on Wall Street that has equipment.
When you think about after everything you've gone through, how do you wake up and still want to build after all the bullshit that you've been through? Is it a legacy play? Is it what drives you?
I'm going to tell you the truth. I could give you some canned bullshit answer.
No, the truth.
But like my people are very nice to me. Generally, I'm a nice guy. First of all, you've gotten to know me a little. We've spent a lot of hours together. I'm respectful. I'm kind.
I can verify that you are a nice guy.
I believe in elevating people and saying nice things to people. I can make jokes, all these different things, but I'm considered a funny guy. But I really care what my family thinks of me. I have children. I have 2 daughters. One day they're going to have children. And I worked hard. I'm a hard worker, like you. I'm a hard worker. When I put my head down, I could look up and the whole day's gone. I don't even know what happened. Yeah. And I had a whole day before I even came to see you today. A whole day. Then drove to Miami. But to make a long story short, it's really important to me. And if I needed the money right now, I'd work. I know guys that sell cars. I can sell anything. But I'm 68 years old. I feel like God gave me the strength, the moxie, and the fortitude to do something with my life, the rest of my life. When I was in prison, I literally helped hundreds of people, hundreds of inmates, including officers. Many officers in the BLP will testify to that. Many of them follow me on social media and DM me and stuff, and they're not allowed to do that and all that, but they do it. And I feel like God has given me some gifts, and my program, when I got clean, like I told you, it's called 12 steps, right? Well, the 12th step is to give back. If you want to keep what you have, you have to give it away. It was freely given to you. You have to give it away. And it's the old adage, like, whatever I give, I get back tenfold. I could testify to that on my life, on the lives of my children. This is like a principle in the universe that is like gravity for me. And I feel like I can help. I feel like I can help almost everybody. I hate to say it like that. I don't mean to be, I am full of myself, and I'm probably a narcissist and all these, I am. And it's probably true. But at this point in my life, I think if I didn't feel that way, then what have I really done in my life? And, you know, the greatest feeling I've had in my life is when I help other people and I see the light go on in their eyes. I have a mastermind program that we do charge for. And it's been the greatest gift to me because I'm not in my industry. I'm not in the Wall Street. I can help anybody when it comes to the markets, and I do help people. But I'm helping people, men, navigate life, business, family, stress, anxiety, legal stuff, everything, and women too now. And it's just one of the most rewarding things ever. My ex-wife was listening in on a couple of these masterminds, and she goes, "This is your calling. You could sit in your apartment till you're in your 80s and just help people as long as you could talk." And so I feel like I have a higher calling. I do. All the things that I've just shared with you is very honest from my heart. I care what my kids think. When I got out of prison, my kids wanted very little to do with me, so you know. I wasn't allowed to appear in a picture with them. Putting them on social media, forget it, Dad. I would. There was some point when they first started going out, meeting me for family dinner. Remember, they lived without me for 10 years. They were little girls, 11 and 14, when I went in. And they were highly embarrassed. Kids are cruel. They had to get off social media for a while. American Greed came out. To this day, if you say American Greed to my wife, she gets teary-eyed. She's just crying like. It's affected her deeply. What did she do wrong? And people come at her because people are cruel. And I want to change the narrative. I want to leave a legacy that's positive, that's reflective of to the life I've actually lived, not some fucking horse shit. I mean, if Donald Trump didn't win this election, he would go down as like one of the biggest scoundrels in the history of America. Instead, he might very well go down as one of the greatest presidents in the history of America.
Wild how.
Think about that.
Yeah.
That's like my story. You know, but I'm going to say it like this now, because I want to get very honest with you guys. I sort of love this shit. I don't feel 68. I'm like invested now in this podcast business. I'm invested in this sort of mentorship and building a media company.
Fun.
I could smell, you know, they sell shark, can smell the blood in the water from a mile away. If you're flapping your arms, it splashes, they can sense the sound from a mile. I feel like I can see what's coming with raw media from a mile away. I see it. Anything in my life that I've seen that clearly happens. So now I'm sort of like hooked. Because I will say up until a few months ago, I could have walked away. I could have just said, fuck it. It's not worth it. Just not worth it. Even if I needed money, I know how to get money. I don't need to do all this shit to make money. I sit in front of my computer. It's easy for me. Do this my whole life. But I feel like I can do something really great. And you know this. You're Scott Clary, hockey player from Toronto, right? An executive from Ottawa, right? You now command the eyeballs of more than 1 million. You command over 1 million eyeballs. You.
It's crazy.
How great is that, though?
Yeah.
That's the miracle of what we're all doing here today. How many people are going to see this and the clips and all these different things? So if you're really intent on changing a narrative or doing good, what a platform this is. If you really want to help people. What a God has given us this gift. When I was growing up, there was like black and white TV, and there was 3 channels. 3 channels. Now there's 1,000 channels and nothing interesting to watch.
You know, you've been through the highest of highs, lowest of lows in your life?
By the way, literally.
Literally, yeah.
A lot of guys use these phrases.
Yeah.
I've been to the top of the mountain, and I've been to the depths of fucking hell. I have been.
What's your definition of success and a life well lived after you've been to both?
I'm going to tell you, so depending who you are and where you are in life, your definition of success is going to change. And this is a big thing in prison. Guys talk about this a lot. A lot of prison philosophers, But there's a lot of dummies in prison. But there's some really brilliant minds in prison, too. It's interesting, and other points of view. But I have a very specific definition of success today. And by my definition, I'm becoming very successful. And that's really that's what drives me the most right now. I'm going to share that with your audience and you. After spending, a lot of time in prison with nothing to do but read and pray and do push-ups and try and better myself, it's a lot of time wasted. My definition of success today for Ross Mandell, and this is specifically to me, is to have such a life that my adult children want to hang out with me. When's the last time you wanted to hang out with your parents? Not talking to you specifically, but when's the last time you wanted to hang out with your parents? It's not too often, generally speaking. We do it as an obligation.
And it's sad because you can actually count how many times you're going to spend with your parents for the rest of your life, and it's not a lot.
Well, it depends. So my definition, my kids today want to hang out with me.
I was going to ask.
My daughter called me up, Dad, Elliot's going to, the soccer game with his friends, so I'll be alone. You think you could pick me up? We can hang out. We go out to lunch. Maybe we'll go shopping. Went to Pura Vida in Fort Lauderdale last Sunday. We went a little shopping, walking around, hung out in her apartment. We took a nap. We both fell asleep on the couch, took a little snooze. I mean, I said, if you're a young woman, who are you going to feel comfortable taking a nap with besides your boyfriend?
Not many people.
Like your dad, right?
Yeah.
We ate so much, and we both took.
That's the best kind of lunch, by the way.
The best. My other daughter's like, Dad, listen, I have a date. I'm going to be in Miami for the weekend. Could you go feed my cat and sit with him for like an hour? Very spoiled cat.
Very spoiled cat.
So I go over there. She calls me up. Dad, I thought you were going to. He said anywhere between 9 or 10. So I was going to go at 10. Oh, okay. Now, when you're there, Dad, can you take some video, take some pictures? She's, holding me, making sure I don't run over and I, come in and run out. But what a gift that I can do this for my kids. And we go out for dinners. And, I told you I made a deal to produce a movie called Blind Greed, starring Michael Capon, who's one of the original Power Rangers. He's got the blue Power Ranger called Time Force. Yeah. And he was in One Tree Hill, the teen drama, the show on TV, and he's made 2 movies last year and 5 movies since 2020, and about 100 TV commercials. He's a real guy, and we had made the deal, signed the deal, but everything was on Zoom and online, etc., on the phone, and I insisted he come in and meet my family and my close team, because we're all now going to produce this film and we're all part of it, and there's some moving parts. And I said to my kids, I'd love for you guys to come, and they were psyched to come to the dinner. We went to Prezzo's, shout out, North Military Trail in Boca Raton, and we had an amazing dinner. Like over 14 people came and left, but it's, to me, that's what success is. Because in order for your children, your adult children, to want to spend time with you, you got to be pretty cool. You got to be doing some pretty cool things, because everybody wants to have a good time. They don't want to just spend that obligatory couple hours with their parents. And so to me, that's really great. And when my ex-wife wants to do things for me.
Yeah, she still works with you.
And hang out with me. I know I'm winning, boy. I'm winning because she's a true yardstick, a true measure of what is successful. She has her own definition, and it's a much more substantial definition.
No, but I liked your definition a lot.
That's how I feel today. When I was your age, I had a different feel. It was all different. But I'm just letting you know.
I like that. I like that. One of your favorite ideas that you have that I think will really hit with people after they know your story now. This is not a dress rehearsal. You don't get a mulligan. There are no do-overs.
This is your life. This is it. Yeah. People sitting there, let me think about it. Think about what? Another one, to me, has become my favorite. Life is not a spectator sport. Get off the bench and get in there. You're the star of your life. You're the star of your life. If your life was put on the big screen, would you be excited? Is it meaningful? Or is it a dud? Get in there. Enjoy, mix it up. Do some things. Take a chance. Have some fun. We don't get another chance at this. I used to play golf with my friends. We're hackers, And, a guy will tee off. We don't like the shot. I'm taking a mulligan. I'm like, what's a mulligan? I thought it was like an Irish stew. He says, oh, it's a do-over. I said, I don't understand. Where did this, what rule book is this in? Everybody knows it's a mulligan. It's like funny. And that's life. Yeah. Get in there, baby.
You lost nearly a decade of your life.
Even more than that, really.
More than that. That's just tough. What do you see now? You mentioned your family, which, that's probably going to be part of this answer, but what's the most precious thing in the time that you do have left on this earth?
I like to be productive. Yeah. There's a difference between actually being productive and feeling productive. If you ever thought about it, you'd be able to come up with your own concepts of that. But I like to feel productive, not just to be productive. Because sometimes you just go through the motions of life, of business, and you're really not feeling productive. Once you're just going through the motions, you're phoning it in. That's why, people say,
live life, truly live life.
Listen, you could do anything. Why are you driving to Miami to do? You just were with Scott Clay. Why are you going to drive? You're driving. You're 68 years old. You're going to drive to Miami and do this. I'll tell you a good story about this. One day I get invited to Matt Cox's podcast.
I love his podcast.
Me too.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So he's in Tampa. I'm in Boca. It's about a 4-hour ride. This is right after the most recent hurricane. My plan was to get up early in the morning and drive from Boca to Tampa. Do his podcast, maybe an hour, maybe 90 minutes, whatever. Everyone's got different. And then I'll drive back. And when I got out of prison, I had some health issues. I had a scare or two. I had some things that I'm fine, but there was no explanation for what happened. But, they say, Mr. Mandell, your speedo days are over. I said, I'm 68. I'm not 88. But, shit happens. But, I'm a believer that, if you're going to play in the big leagues, if you're a big guy, you got to play hurt. You don't just sit on the bench. You don't just phone it in. So I said, I want to do this. And Nelson will say, Stephanie's like, call Nelson. He'll drive you. I said, of course he would, but I want to do this. She goes, I don't understand. Are you crazy? You're going to drive across the state, do a podcast, and drive home in one day? I didn't really give a great thought. But yeah, what the hell? What the fuck? What do I do? What am I? I'm not, doing construction in the hot sun.
Yeah, you're just driving.
I'm not laying cinder blocks, right? So little did I know. So I got up. I drove there. It was a good 4 hours, and there was shit all over the roads when you got towards the west coast of Florida. It was bad. There's a couple of detours. And I get there, and I said, right as we're sitting to start, I said, so, what do you like to keep it to an hour? I was new at this. I had no idea. 40 minutes? What's the time limit? He goes, bro, you're fucking Ross Mandell. we're going to be here until you can't find another word to say. We want whatever. You're going to talk, we're going to record. You're here. I know you guys know I could probably talk. They said, we've been here for 4 hours before. 5 hours and 13 minutes later.
You did a 5-hour podcast with him?
5 hours and 13 minutes.
I thought it wasn't 5 hours that he published, did he?
Listen,
okay.
46,000 views, 5 hours and 13 minutes. Just recently, I just discovered this yesterday, but I see he did it in January. He cut out a 20-minute clip specifically about the stock market and just posted that. But it was 5 hours and 13 minutes. Now, we spoke for a half hour before and about a half hour after. And then I first had to drive home 4 hours. And it was a great day. It was a great day. And, you know, Stephanie's like, pull over, get a hotel room. You know what I mean? Like, people, like, it's funny. So I drove, you know, of course, my counterpart over there, he goes to Orlando, he takes a hotel, you know, gets a manicure, a pedicure while he's there, you know.
You're doing
living a life.
Now. Yeah,
my brother Nelson. You know, I'm just saying, so we were 8 hours of driving, 5 hours of podcasting, an hour, half hour. So it's a big day, right? Yeah. And I wasn't really feeling great. But I did it. And you want to know what? It was a great day. It was a great day. And he asked me, why'd you do that? I said, I wanted to see if I could. I wanted to test myself. I've been locked up for 10 years. I didn't drive a car for 10 years. The only time I was in a car was when they chained me up and they moved me from place to place. You know what I mean? Back of a van. Leg chains, waist chain. You wouldn't believe it. So I said, here I could drive. And did I get paid for that? No. Did it cost me money to do this? It did. 2 full tanks of gas, and I don't know what the hell But the point I make to you is that it was a great feeling. Coming to see you like today, this is great. It's great. I mean, you're a great guy, the great studio. Thank you. You know, it's my story. I heard your story. I feel like I got to know you. And but, you know, we're not doing heavy construction. No. We're not welding, 3,000 feet below sea level. You know, we're chatting. And it's air conditioned. It's nice, bro. And so I think it's really, and if we help one person, if one person gets any sort of help or comfort from this, we entertain them, we did a good thing.
You've given a lot to the audience, and I appreciate you. What's one last sort of some words of wisdom that you want to leave them with, or something that we didn't go into that you think would be helpful for the audience when they're trying to navigate life, business, or just outside of business, just life in general?
You know, I'm going to borrow this from someone that was revered to be one of the smartest men in the history of the world. And on his deathbed, he said, and I repeat this to the audience as mine, you know, anything that can be solved or cured by either time or money is an issue, not a problem. It's very important to understand this. In the general routine of life, people believe they have these problems. They don't have problems. Most people don't have problems. But they have issues. And if you can cure a circumstance with money or with time, it's not a problem. You have an issue. So I did time. I literally checked into a prison in 2014, and I essentially didn't get released to 2024. That wasn't a problem. It was an issue. Now, issues are serious, but it was an issue. A problem is different. You have a brain tumor, your days are numbered. That's a problem. So these are things that people should really consider, because I believe that we're the masters of our own fate largely. I feel that God, our creator, our maker, gives us an opportunity to conquer lives, our own lives. We can conquer our own lives. I believe everybody has the ability to become very successful, whatever their own definition of success is. It's very important that you try and define success. I was on the phone with a beautiful woman who you met last week. And I said, what are the 5 most important things to you in the world? Think about it. Don't answer. What are the 5 most important things? If I was a genie, I'm Aladdin's genie. Rub the lamp, I come out. You can have anything in the world. What are the 5 things you'd want? What are the 5 most important things to you? And that's your starting point in life. That's how you triangulate where you are. So a lot of people want to be successful. They want to be successful in business. They want to be successful in life, in a relation, in podcasting, on the stock market, basically in any endeavor. And I think that everybody would be successful because I think just about everybody wants to be successful. But nobody understands, and there's a million books, there's a million shows, there's a million podcasts, there's a million theories about how to be successful in the stock market, in relationships. I mean, they had stories for everything. But people don't know where the starting line is. Where do I, just show me where I show up, where the race starts, and I can run the race because I'm armed with Google and books and wisdom and philosophers and mentors. People don't understand where they show up. Where's the starting line? And I think that's one of the most important things. And anything that can be solved with time or money is just an issue. People don't have problems like they think they do. Can't pay the rent. My job, I don't have enough to live. How am I going to support my children? I mean, these are issues. Don't make them more than they are. Because when you see a hill, no problem. When you see a fucking mountain, you're like, oh God, I can't do it. And that's very important to put things into perspective.
That's very wise. When people see problems, when people see issues as problems, that can sabotage their whole life.
Well, that's what happens. That is sabotage. Yeah. That's what happens. And so that's why I tried to put that into perspective. It takes a lot of thinking and understanding. And I don't want to start defining the different specific problems because then the people that are listening that actually have problems are going to panic. Yeah. Did I ever tell you look a little bit like Ben Affleck?
I have heard that before.
I'm staring at you and I feel like I'm looking at Ben Affleck.
It's not the worst.
Listen.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem or an issue. I'll take that every
The more
day.
I look at you, the more I see Ben Affleck. Is that crazy?
Funny. Where can people connect with you? Where can people find more about Raw Media, about some of the content you're working on, all that?
Thank you. RossMandell.com is the website. Ross is double S. Mandell is MANDELL.com, just like it sounds. Ross Mandell on Instagram, on Facebook. I have a friend page and a fan page. Follow me. Hit me up. Send me a friend request. I'm on YouTube, The Real Ross Mandell. Please subscribe. Info@rossmandell.com. My team is 24/7. They'll respond, I promise you, within a few hours at worst. We have a mentorship program where I mentor people. I mastermind program. I consult. If you have a business, if you have a company, if you have an issue, or if you have a problem.
Last thing I always like to ask, you've given over a lot of wisdom. And you mentioned a few times how important your family, your kids are. If you had to pick out of all the different things that you've learned over your life and you could only pass on, you're only allowed in this exercise to pass on one lesson to your kids, what would that lesson be and why?
Invest in yourself. Believe in yourself. Don't buy what everybody's selling. Don't buy the illusion.